For more than a decade, the world has quietly watched, without words, without context, as one of Hollywood's most powerful fathers slowly disappeared. From the life of the little girl who once meant everything to him. The silence surrounding that distance has lasted years, but now that silence has started to crack. And behind it lies a story far heavier than fame, more complicated than scandal, and far more human than the headlines ever showed. Today on Hollywood Mistakes, we're going to uncover the story of a father and daughter separated by distance, a tale filled with love, silence, and life-changing decisions. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe. Let's get started, because this isn't just a Hollywood breakup. It's the story of a daughter who grew up behind locked gates, hidden lenses, and whispered warnings, and a father who somehow lost sight of her while the whole world watched him shine. Her name once was Suri Cruz, a name that instantly made her famous before she could even speak. Today she calls herself Suri Noel, a name chosen not for fame, but for freedom. She was born in the middle of a love story that felt like a fairy tale written by the tabloids, full of passion, beauty, and spectacle. But what the world didn't see then was how quickly that fairy tale would become a fortress, one she and her mother would spend years trying to escape from. The beginning, when a fantasy became real. It all began in 2005 when two stars collided. Tom Cruise, then 43, was already a legend, a man who could turn any movie into a global event. Top Gun, Jerry Maguire, Mission Impossible. His face was carved into the very definition of stardom. And then came Katie Holmes, 26, bright-eyed, soft-spoken, still carrying the warmth of her Dawson's Creek fame. She once told 17 magazine as a teenager, "I used to think I would marry Tom Cruise." It sounded innocent then, like a schoolgirl's dream. But when fate crossed their paths, that fantasy suddenly became real. People close to Tom say the moment he met her, he turned to his team and said, "I'm going to marry her." From that second on, the story unfolded faster than anyone could imagine. Public sightings, laughter in Rome, stolen kisses in Paris. Their chemistry felt unstoppable. They weren't just a couple, they were an event. And then came that moment, the one that defined them in pop culture forever. Tom Cruise on Oprah's couch, grinning ear to ear, bouncing up and down, shouting, "I'm in love!" Some people called it sweet, others called it strange, but nobody could ignore it. The world was witnessing something wild, unpredictable, and real, or so it seemed. The birth of a miracle. On April 18, 2006, in a quiet hospital room under unusual conditions, their daughter was born, Suri Cruz. Tom called it the happiest day of my life. But even that moment came wrapped in the world that shaped him most, the Church of Scientology. Katie, raised Catholic, found herself trying to understand a belief system that was not only foreign but demanding. The birth itself followed the church's strict rules, a silent birth where no one was allowed to speak during delivery. Tom even bought his own sonogram machine to monitor the pregnancy from home. To outsiders, it sounded bizarre. To Tom, it was devotion, his way of showing care. To Katie, it was the beginning of a life where even love felt controlled. That November, they married in a breathtaking Italian castle, the Odescalchi Castle, a $3 million dream ceremony, attended by Hollywood royalty. Jennifer Lopez, the Beckhams, Will Smith, everyone wanted to be there. It was the event of the decade. And yet, behind the lace, laughter, and lavish celebration, Katie's parents felt uneasy. As lifelong Catholics, they were frightened, not by Tom, but by the invisible walls surrounding him. Walls built on secrecy, loyalty, and faith so absolute it left no room for questioning. The cracks behind the smiles. By 2007, the couple was still the media's obsession. Red carpets, magazine covers, movie premieres. But privately, a slow, quiet tension had begun to grow. Katie's friends noticed the difference first. She was rarely alone. Wherever she went, someone from Tom's close Scientology circle followed, calm, polite, but always present. During one dinner, a journalist heard her say softly, "We don't go outside much." It sounded like a casual remark, but to those who understood, it was a quiet cry for air. Tom, meanwhile, was at the peak of his influence inside the Church of Scientology. To him, the church wasn't control, it was clarity, discipline, truth. But to Katie, it began to feel like a web she couldn't escape. Her parents' visits became less frequent. Friends stopped hearing from her directly. Every time someone asked about Tom, she gave the same words, same smile, same tone. He's wonderful. He's amazing. Like she was reading from a script. The sparkle that once made her glow on screen had dimmed. Quietly, almost invisibly. The escape plan. By 2010, whispers spread through Hollywood. Katie wanted out. But leaving Tom Cruise wasn't like leaving anyone else. She began moving carefully, attending fewer Scientology events, reconnecting with old friends, visiting New York more often. Every step looked casual. Every move was deliberate. Behind the scenes, she was preparing, changing phones, choosing lawyers. Her father, Martin Holmes, a sharp attorney, began quietly constructing a legal shield. It wasn't rebellion, it was protection. Because Katie wasn't just planning a divorce. She was planning an extraction, and for herself and for her 6-year-old daughter. The day Hollywood froze, June 29, 2012. The headline broke like an earthquake. Katie Holmes files for divorce from Tom Cruise. Days before his 50th birthday. For Tom, it was sudden. For Katie, it was survival. She filed in New York, where laws favored mothers in custody cases. She hid her location, changed security, cut off communication lines suspected of church ties. Tom found out through the media. In court documents, her reasoning became clear. She wasn't running from love. She was running to protect her daughter's future. Former Scientologists later confirmed what many suspected. Katie feared her daughter might be drawn into the church's Sea Org program someday, and she refused to let that happen. The divorce was finalized in 11 days. Katie received full custody. Tom agreed to child support, about $400,000 per year, until Suri turned 18. But money wasn't what Katie wanted. She wanted freedom. For herself. For her daughter. And the day after the papers were signed, she and Suri disappeared from Los Angeles, leaving behind the mansion, the guards, the world, the new life. When cameras finally spotted them weeks later, they weren't on a red carpet. They were walking down a quiet New York street, holding hands, laughing softly. No bodyguards, no handlers, no performance. For the first time in years, Katie smiled like herself again. Suri looked calm, just a child being a child. That's how their life stayed. Katie focused on small, ordinary things. School, dance class, cafes, the subway. She raised Suri far from the cameras, building something normal out of the ruins of fame. Tom, meanwhile, threw himself back into work. Mission impossible. Top Gun, Maverick, and the endless pursuit of perfection. While he was hanging off airplanes and scaling skyscrapers, his daughter was quietly growing up, without him. Becoming Suri Noel, years passed, and then around 2021, something subtle changed. At her performing arts high school in New York, LaGuardia, Suri began using a different name. Not Suri Cruise, but Suri Noel, adopting her mother's middle name. It wasn't a rejection. It was a quiet declaration. I am my own person. She sang, directed short films, acted in plays, carving her identity away from her father's shadow. When she graduated in 2024, the name Suri Noel appeared on the official list. Tom wasn't there. He was seen thousands of miles away at a Taylor Swift concert in London. Katie was, tears in her eyes, pride in her smile. That summer, mother and daughter drove to Pittsburgh together, unloading boxes into a college dorm at Carnegie Mellon University, where Suri began studying fashion. No paparazzi, no entourage, just a mom helping her child move into the next chapter of her life. 2 worlds apart. By 2025, their paths had diverged completely. Tom still conquering new heights, preparing to shoot a movie, in space with NASA and SpaceX. Suri, meanwhile, crafting a quiet, creative life. Then one small human moment broke through the silence. In October 2025, she was seen sitting on a New York doorstep, head in hands, looking lost in thought. Minutes later, Katie arrived in an Uber. She sat beside her daughter, wrapped an arm around her and whispered something. They stood, walked off together, and bought pastries. To anyone else, it was just a moment between a mother and a daughter. but to those who know their story, and it was everything. Because love had survived where faith, fame, and power had all failed. The unanswered question. Today, Suri Noel is 19, a student, a dreamer, an artist. She carries her mother's strength and her father's fire, even if the two have never shared a room in more than a decade. Tom still supports her financially, but emotionally, the gap between them remains unspoken. And maybe that's the hardest truth of all. That a man who can leap from airplanes and defy gravity may never find his way back to the daughter he once called a miracle. Because some distances can't be crossed by stunts or spaceships, only by time, humility, and heart. And after 19 years, the question still lingers, will Tom Cruise ever make that leap? Or has the silence already written their ending? If this story made your heart heavy, or made you think about how love and fame sometimes can't exist together, hit that like button, share your thoughts below, and remember, behind every Hollywood headline, there's a human story fighting to be heard.